amazed by people like you that handle jet lag. And I'm always asking this. It might sound stupid, but how do you actually handle jet lag?
Jet lag. I mostly do through drinking alcohol. So if I get drunk enough, I pass out on the plane, and that works to some extent. There's a second way, which is that I travel so much that I don't have a baseline time zone.
You're just like a flight attendant now.
Kind of. I just move around so fast. Yeah.
So does it affect your sexual biorhythm?
Does it affect you'd have to ask my wife that. But it does to some extent. But if I keep moving, that also helps me in other ways.
Okay, so great start for the interview. I think we got the best of it. So just like, share, and subscribe. No. So we are here, and coming in, I listened your talk on Medellin. And we are just like these guys over there. We have the same problem: transportation, education, corruption, all that. Yeah. You've been here since 2 a.m. Is it anything all right in here, or do you see all the wrong things?
Oh, I think I tend to see the positive, so I tend to have a positivity bias. I'm very optimistic and very excited about the potential in places like Romania or Medellin and others.
Why that?
Well, because think about Japan. After World War II, Japan was totally wiped out, rebuilt itself, and leapfrogged the entire rest of the world. If you think of the possibility in Romania to leverage technology in interesting ways, you could leapfrog the whole world. And I think that opportunity is there with the right mindset and with the right ambition.
So we're coming so low that we can. We keep on telling ourselves that, but we are into transition for the past 30 years. It doesn't seem like much has happened, and I'm thinking it's the mindset you're talking about. How do we change mindset?
I think one of the biggest things I've seen about mindset is that entrepreneurs are scared to take a risk and fail. Silicon Valley is successful because if your business fails, we call it experience. Whereas most places of the world, you fail, you're the failure. You're bad.
In Romania, you're a total failure after the first attempt.
Exactly. Here's how to frame it. If you're a child playing the piano and you play the piano for the first time, you're terrible. And we don't say to the child, don't ever play again, you're terrible. Right? We say, keep practicing. Yeah. But if an entrepreneur builds a business and they fail, we say, don't ever build a business again. Well, that's completely the wrong attitude. If you think of all the successful entrepreneurs, Reid Hoffman and Mark Zuckerberg, whoever, they all tried 3 or 4 times. I've had 7 startups, 4 have failed. And if I lived off the failures, I'd never do anything. In the first one, I got the wrong cap table. Second one, I got the wrong investors. Third one, I did my biz dev structures the wrong way. Fourth one, the market collapsed when I didn't expect it. It's like, and I use the analogy of turtle eggs. Okay? A turtle will lay 200 eggs on a beach, and all these little startups, little turtles, are running towards the water. The birds are eating them, the animals are eating them. You get into the water, the fish are eating them. Only 5 get to the bottom to be big turtles.
5 out of 200.
Out of 200. And in startup world, it's a similar ratio. You don't know. The way to do it is to do many startups.
People don't know this. Less than 3% succeed. Yeah. Only 2% become profitable, and only one of these ever become potentially a unicorn.
That's right. And that's why we say, if you're going to build a business, you better do it for passion. It's not for the money, because most likely you're going to fail. You do it because you absolutely want to solve that problem, and you wake up at 6 a.m. to solve that problem. That's why I say in the book, what's your massive transformative purpose?
Your books are awesome and they're a great read. So I'm not going to go into that now. I'm going to let people buy those books and make you a ton of money. But what I want to learn from you, how do you call them, this childhood diseases? How do we leapfrog through those childhood diseases and change mindset? Because schools are bad, our lifestyle is bad, we are not sustainable in most of the things we do. I don't know. How do we skip on all the bad things if we do everything wrong?
So education is particularly bad because our education systems are designed to create robots. All our education systems are designed to put you in jobs where you do the same thing over and over again. Whereas now you succeed by how human you are, how creative, how passionate, how funny, etc. you are. And so our schooling systems don't match that, and we're gonna kind of bypass our schooling systems now, or create totally different schooling systems. I have a 7-year-old son, and he's in one of these newer type schools, and he came home from school And I said, what did you learn? And he said, we learned how to control our impulsivity. I was like, that's fantastic.
I get that.
I need that. And so we're now teaching kids human skills that they need rather than mathematics or just mathematics or science or just reading or just writing, and that's very exciting.
So mindfulness is one.
Mindfulness, passion, creativity, lateral thinking. 50% of CEOs in Silicon Valley have a liberal arts degree.
That's good to know. But if you tell that to today's parents, and they look at the children and say, am I creating a broke artist?
Yes, well, that's the traditional challenge. But the other way to think about it is if you say, hey, go study for 10 years to be a particular job, that job does not exist in 5 years. So it doesn't work. The old model of how you think about it doesn't work. The parents have to learn that what they went through is not what works for the kid.
Okay, so if it's not going to be there, that job in 5 or 10 years, only social skills, only critical lateral thinking, is that good enough to survive?
Well, one of my colleagues at Singularity University said it very well. She said, every job description in the future, every job description will be complex, adaptive problem solver.
And is it going to be enough for everyone?
Well, I think what's going to happen is as we increase productivity of technology and we drop the cost of living dramatically, we actually have that opportunity for the first time ever.
So you're talking about abundance.
Yes.
And abundance is a big theme in what you're talking. Energy supply, transportation, all that. When we're going to have full abundance and we're all going to be creative, what's the world going to look like? Is it going to be, I don't know, a huge party?
Well, it could be, and it would be ideally. We've seen that societies, when they reach abundance, say the Romans taking over the world, or the Mughals taking over India, or the invasions and where people had abundance, society tends to do four things: food, art, music, and sex, not in that order. And so, as we achieve abundance, we have much more self-expression, more time on our hands. We can follow our passions more, and we have more leisure time, et cetera, and we're kind of getting there now. As I said, we're working a lot less today, or we have to work a lot less today than 500 years ago to just feed ourselves.
But the Roman Empire declined eventually. Are we going to go into decline and come back up? Is it going to be any different now?
Well, every civilization in the past has hit some boundary condition and then collapsed. The Mayans, the Incas, the Romans, the American Empire is now collapsing. But now we're starting to see the rise of other areas, Asia, China, etc. I think Europe sees a rebirth. And what I think happens is if we can achieve a kind of an abundance, it sets a platform and then we move forward from there. So I think we have two futures in the world that we live in. We either have a Star Trek future or a Mad Max future. Right? Unfortunately, we're heading down the Mad Max future right now with some of the politicians, etc. But it doesn't take a lot to swing it over to the Star Trek future because technology is delivering that.
Yeah, but human nature is conflictual, so we need conflict to achieve progress. So that's the major pain we need to solve before going into Star Trek mode.
It is, but remember that human nature has always survived and navigated and had to deal with scarcity. Okay, so that you go out and create a bigger farm, you have more land, you try and have more water, more ports, more planes, etc. As we reach abundance, you don't need more land, you don't need more energy because it's coming at us anyway. What are you fighting over? And so we'll find something to fight over. We could, but at least then we'll do it on the soccer field or football field rather than doing it in real life.
I'm looking at Putin and Xi Jinping joining on a yacht and Trump on the other side slamming tariffs. These guys are not going to fight on a soccer field.
No, but the world is moving past them very quickly. Just for example, it doesn't matter what Trump does with coal, etc. Solar is moving at its pace, and it's going to take over the world no matter what he does.
It's the cheapest way to have energy today, solar. Solar and renewables have just become the cheapest way to have. And you're driving a Tesla too. I'm doing the same, so I understand perfectly when you're saying that an electric car is like a private electric train. Yeah. So we have transportation, you have cheap energy, the transition is there. Yeah. But from today, from the hard, solid today that is very painful into the future, what do we do in the meanwhile? Because in the next 5 years, I think the most painful will be the next 5 to 10 years.
I think you're right. I think of it as a 20-year transition where we have to move all of our systems from scarcity limited environments to abundance-based environments. Education should be online and free, right? Resources should be widely available.
But what do you actually do? I would go into a cryogenic capsule for the next 20 years and wait for the change to finally fucking happen. It doesn't happen. These guys don't move it. In Romania, we have bureaucrats that they move papers from one side to the other. Change doesn't just happen.
Yeah, it doesn't until it does, right? What happens is we don't notice it, we don't notice it, we don't notice it, and all of a sudden the world is totally different. So, for example, we thought that they would take 30, 40 years for cell phones to propagate around the world, and boom, it happened like that. And so there are areas where we suddenly do have massive propagation. The fact that I can video with anybody anywhere in the world for pretty much free is kind of a magical thing, and we have that capability. We do have huge issues with the government because they're limited thinking, they're scarcity based, they like the control environment, etc. But the world is moving around them very quickly.
So we need to move around, break the law like Uber, and just move forward.
Not just break the law, but I think what you do is, like, for example, education, you create new educational models that totally make the old redundant. And we're starting to do that now.
Thank you for your time. I know you have a lot on your plate today. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for the inspiration. One last question, because all the girls want to know: how does your wife handle your ideas on marriage in the public?
Yes. So not very well. She basically says, as long as you say it as a joke, you're fine.
Okay. So if you want to get the joke, you need to see his talks. Salim Ismail on TED. Very, very powerful talker, speaker with very disruptive ideas. Not the bullshit technologically digital advance and stuff like that we hear every day. So I hope you have a great time in Romania, and I hope I'll see you for the next one. Eventually, I'm going to come back.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.